In today's show, two former legends have been hired to rejoin the Portland Trail Blazers. Has a team entered its reunion era? Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we're talking about reunions. The Trailblazers are bringing back reportedly, two legends to the franchise. According to reporting from Joe Freeman of the Oregonian, the team has hired Terry Porter and Brian Grant to rejoin the team in sort of basketball-related roles. What I want to talk about today is those hires. I think they're interesting, and we'll get the details as reported by Joe Freeman. Good to have Joe back on the beat. We're getting great reporting. I'm glad he's back. Welcome home, Joe. Started doing this in 2007, and you're doing a great job in 2025. Appreciate you. I want to talk about that reporting. I want to talk about the details of the TP and then Brian Grant hirings and their roles and how they'll fit in the organization. Then I want to talk about just sort of the Blazers' relationship to past players in general, and then what other legends with an asterisk or maybe a lowercase L, what other former Blazers I'd like to see come back in the fold, because I think they're doing certainly a better job now than they have been over the last 30 years, but still there's not, and everything is not perfectly hunky-dory, I would say. Let's get into the details of these hires, though. This is reporting for Joe Freeman of the Oregonian. Support local journalism. Terry Porter has been hired as a scout, and he is going to mostly serve as he'll be an NBA and college scout, but he'll be predominantly on the East Coast, according to Freeman's reporting. Terry Porter is a true Blazers legend. The point guard on the best era of basketball that the team has ever had. I think Terry Porter is the most underrated player in franchise history. Most underrated is a weird thing, because if we all agree someone is most underrated, they are immediately properly rated. So most underrated does depend on you, dear listener, thinking differently than me, which is a weird thing to argue. But I do think for fans of a certain age, they think if you're a 32-year-old listening to this podcast, you think Brandon Roy is the third or fourth greatest Blazer of all time, and you, dear listener, are wrong. Brandon Roy, very important to the 21st century Blazers, but TP, if you're talking Mount Rushmore, there's three unassailable, right? And you can have them in any order. I have my order, but you can have them in any order: Walton, Drexler, and Damian Lillard. It's Bill Walton, Clyde Drexler, and Damian Lillard. Those are the three greatest Blazers of all time. It's truly not debatable for those top three. The order is not is maybe debatable, but the three is not debatable. The fourth, who's on Mount Rushmore, is the fourth face. It's probably Terry Porter. The argument is that it could be LaMarcus Aldridge. That's the actual truth. And then somewhere after that, Brandon Roy. Important figure. I value longevity, probably. In any case, Porter's back with the team, but he's been back with the team in various roles. He was hired by the team and kind of rejoined the team in 2022, and then has worked in various capacities, but not really in the basketball side. And he's rejoined the broadcast a little bit, and he's done some sort of community liaison stuff and worked in those spaces. And he's and he'll, every so often they would bring him on for an entire quarter, and they would just podcast during the game as opposed to covering the game. And it drove me absolutely nuts. I don't care for it. But it is, but Porter's been around the team, right? He's connected to the team, and he's an all-time great, but now he's coming back in this sort of more basketball role, right? He's coming back in the more basketball role, scouting on the NBA side, going to scout on the college side. He'll watch, East Coast games, and he'll be stationed over there, or mostly over there. Brian Grant is one of the most beloved Blazers of the modern era of of my lifetime. I'll say it like that. The last 40 years. He's one of the most beloved Blazers of the last 40 years. He's an all-timer, even though he spent such a short period of time in Portland, but truly legendary, right? Like, took no guff in those late 90s, early 2000s Blazers runs, the last truly excellent era of Blazers basketball, toe-to-toe with Karl Malone, guarding Shaq, like going up against the Blazers' biggest foes and never backing down. He was truly a legend. And he has been hired to, and according to Freeman's reporting, he actually was hired in May by the Trailblazers, had been serving in this role, and he's going to work with players in like a mentorship role. It's a non-coaching capacity, so it's not like he's going to be out on the court like saying like, here, do this drop step, or like, here's how I used my forearm to sort of hold off Shaq during that run. It's more like providing some sort of human professional experience. Someone to talk to, give them on-court advice and a lot of off-court advice on how to be a pro and navigate things, life skills, that type of thing. Grant has been dealing with Parkinson's for quite some time, and it's serving in a more physical capacity is probably not an option for him at this point in his career. But he's still someone who has he has a wealth of NBA knowledge, and he's just a great dude. Like, he's just a great dude, and so having him around the team is going to be cool. And like all of you who still have your number 44 jerseys from 1999, bust them back out because BG's is in the building. Also, as a brief aside, if you have a box of Monster O's, the Brian Grant cereal, please get in touch with me. I would love to get those and put them on the wall behind me. A box of Monster O's belongs in the studio. I don't want to buy a signed one off eBay for $500. I want to give one of you, dear listeners, like $100 to send me a Monster O's box. Hook me up if you've got one or got a lead on one. I'd love a Monster O's box. I think what these hires for both Grant and Terry Porter sort of signal is that the team has leaned back, or the team is doing, leaned is maybe a little too loaded. The team is doing a better job of reuniting with former players maybe than they have done in the past. Brian Grant's been around the team though, on and off over the last a decade or so. Like, since I've been around the team, Grant does stuff. He lived here. His kid went to high school in at West Lynn, and like he's been part of the community, and the Blazers have like had him be part of the of various events and things like that, and they've been representatives at his foundation and things like that. But this is like him rejoining the team, right, in a formal way, on the payroll, on the roster. Terry Porter has done other things like liaison stuff, but it's like, this is like join the team, be part of it. And according to Brian Grant, according to reporting from Freeman, like Grant was like, I want to work for the team. I want to be part of what you're doing. And they said, okay, we're going to make you part of it. They've done a better job recently of connecting with the past, of connecting with former players, but not everybody. And I think they have 30 years of not doing a good job of this to make up for it. I want to talk about in the second segment kind of the fences they're trying to mend, as well as closing the show with talking about who I'd really want to see rejoin the team in light of the Porter and Brian Grant hirings. Join me in that second segment, won't you? First, though, let's talk Monarch Money. Most people don't even know all of their financial accounts. They can't even name them or even what they're worth. So whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments, they're in the dark. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. So if you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting, so you can link all of your accounts and minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. If you share finances with someone, Monarch can be a great way for both of you or all of you, depending on the size of your sharing cohort, to get on the same page about what's going on, where you're headed. It also can be a great tool for maximizing your investments, increasing your savings, and easily carefully reviewing your spending each month, each year, and comparing things right along the way. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use a code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year on monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNBA. All right. So it's cool that TP's back in a formal role. It's cool that the Rasta Monster's back in a formal role. BG in the building. It's fun. It's fun for folks fans of a certain age. I think it's important for important is again maybe too much, but I think it is. If you are a young fan of a team, connecting with a team's history that is even maybe predates your fandom or your life is a cool way to realize how big and communal sports are on sort of a larger scale. Right? It's like, oh yeah, my granddad really liked Terry Porter in 1992. I remember that. Or like, say your slightly older uncle or whatever it is. But, I don't think I've always shared the belief that you need to make these connections. I think I value its importance much more now as I've gotten older than I have. I'll talk more about this to close the show, but I think in general, while my personal values have changed, and maybe that's just like part of aging, I think the Blazers have done a really bad job of this over the last 30 years. It isn't just recent that they've done a poor job; it's for a long time. I want to share a couple examples of this. First one I'll share quickly because it's not really my story, so I'll just keep it vague. The Blazers did Decade Nights last year, where they brought back players from the 70s, players from the 80s, 90s night, 2000s night, right? They brought back various generations of players, various decades of players, and they were recognized at midcourt, and you got to celebrate them, et cetera, et cetera. And I know that there was one particular Blazers player who felt like, these people haven't reached out to me in years. Why would I do this? Why am I traveling to do something for them when they've never shown any interest in having me be part of anything in the past? That person attended. That person did it and did indeed attend the event. And it was maybe the beginning of mending fences, or it was just like, playing nice or whatever it was. But this isn't sort of this famous Clyde Drexler beef who did not attend. This is just like another player from Blazers past who has felt that way. More publicly, Rasheed Wallace and Bonzi Wells have openly discussed how they feel like the Blazers have buried their era of basketball. I've heard them talk about it in a couple different podcasts. Rasheed Wallace has his own podcast called The Sheed and Tyler Show, where they've discussed it. Bonzi Wells and him did like a little mini documentary where they discussed it, and they also mentioned it in passing when they were on All the Smoke with Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes. Steven Jackson, Matt Barnes had another Blazer on the show this week. On the show earlier this week, we'll talk about that in a moment. But in those sort of moments in passing, and a couple times more specifically than others, Sheed and Bonzi have mentioned that they felt like when they were gone, right? Bonzi gets traded, Sheed gets traded, and they felt like not only were they not welcome back into the sort of organizational fold. Like, oh, we'd love to have you. Here you go. They felt like beyond that, the team tried to bury their accomplishments, not celebrate that era of basketball, despite it being the most successful stretch. Like a lot of the really unsavory stuff happened like sort of at the end of that era, but and a lot of maybe the stuff that folks got in trouble for, smoking weed, is like not looked at the same way. It's like a totally okay thing to do in most parts of America. And like specifically, it is not a thing that you can get in trouble for in the NBA anymore. So like attitudes around some of the stuff of that era have changed. Certainly there were some other things that are a little more serious, including some intimate partner violence that is just like not okay in any era at any time. But in any case, like Sheed and Bonzi have kind of felt like the team not only didn't welcome them back, but they tried to hide them. They were embarrassed by them and felt insulted by that. And while I've seen Rasheed Wallace in the building a couple times, he doesn't come back and get like celebrated, right? They're not Sheed nights. And boy, would fans of a certain age, certainly the fans who can now afford to buy tickets to games, that era and that age of folks, Sheed would get a pop in the building. I bet if they could get him back on good terms, the Blazers folks would love to have him. on Clyde quickly. I think the Blazers, and I'm going to shift into some positive stuff in a moment. So Clyde will be our slide down into positivity, right? Clyde Drexler spoke with Kerry Eggers last year about how basically the reason why he wasn't around the team, his main beef was he wasn't around the team because he didn't like Burt Cold. He thought Burt Cold was the poison that was making the team bad, and that if Burt Cold was up out of there, maybe his relationship with the team would change. I believe that he doesn't like Burt Cold. I'm sure that's true. But I asked someone who works for the team, a friend of mine who works for the Trailblazers in a not on the basketball side of things. And I was like, you think Clyde's coming back? And they were very skeptical. I doubt it was the exact phrase they used. Because like some of this stuff is just humans, right? Like Clyde just doesn't see himself as part of this. And I think you can do things better. And I think the Blazers are headed in a place where they've done things better. But I would say like the idea that this sort of new era, post Allen Estate owning the team is going to like mend all of these fences is maybe a little bit too hopeful. I hope Drexler comes back. I think he would. I hope he could find some closure with sort of, kind of avoiding the city and the fan base for so long. And some fans would love to see him in the building as well. Although I think people hold him in different regard in terms of what they blame him for and what they blame the franchise for, et cetera, et cetera. But like the Blazers have done a bad job for 30 years at doing this, but they're doing a better job now. And maybe 30 years of doing a bad job has maybe cost them a relationship with, probably the greatest player in franchise history in Clyde Drexler, which is a bummer, but it is what it is. But things are a changing, right? This year, the team welcomed back Greg Oden for a game. And Greg didn't just attend one game. He actually attended two. He just attended one game where he was like on the Jumbotron, sitting front row, getting a recognition, did media availability before the game, all that stuff. And something that Greg wouldn't have done, and the Blazers were very excited to do, and even like made it a media event, so we would cover it as well. We being myself and my colleagues in the media, in the Portland media world, like they did they're doing a better job with that. This weekend, this isn't the same level of thing, but they're like on Sunday, you're listening to Thursday, September 18th program, and this coming Sunday at Pioneer Square in downtown Portland, they're going to hold a rally to welcome back Damian Lillard to the city and to the team and to the franchise. Let's go! It's also like to celebrate the beginning of the season, but it's really sort of like a Dame rally. I find it to be a little bit weird to celebrate the return of Damian Lillard, but I like as in a formal way, in like the rally way, it seems a little bit goofy to me, but like they're selling tickets. I know I know what the deal is. I'm happy for my people who work in the Blazers world who sell tickets and are going to have an easier job selling tickets in the coming years. I know it's been tough. I'm rooting for y'all. But like this just sort of speaks to it. The Blazers are moving in a place where they're understanding that connecting fans to reuniting, like they're in this reunion era, like reuniting fans with players of the past, with the good vibes of the Damian Lillard era rekindled, with Greg Oden back in the building, with bringing TP and Brian Grant back, and I don't think these are aimed just to be like nostalgia hires, right? But I do think it speaks to a world in which they are understanding and appreciating the importance of reunions and connection. And I want to talk about two things. I'm going to quote one of my favorite sort of maybe public thinkers to close the show. And then I'm going to talk about other folks I'd love to see join the team with a shout to a local fan I met once on one special night out here in the beautiful Southeast Portland. Join me. I will tell you many stories. Join me in that third segment. First, though, let us talk about OpenPhone. If you're running a business, every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had urgent need. Say you need a plumber or a service provider. The first person you called, if they don't answer the phone, did you wait? Did you wait around for them to call you back? No, you moved on. That's why your business needs OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or on your computer. It lets you manage business calls and texts from a single app. There's a shared inbox feature, so your team can jump into any conversation instantly without missing a beat. Plus, they've got an AI agent that handles all after-hour calls and answers common questions, captures leads so you never miss a customer. OpenPhone is offering my listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonnba. That's OpenPhone.com/lockedonnba. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. I am someone who spends a lot of time listening to podcasts. I don't listen to a ton of sports podcasts, but I do listen to many of them in my day. And one of them I listen to pretty regularly is hosted by John Hodgman, famous for being on The Daily Show. He played the Mac in those old Mac and PC ads, and he's written a bunch of books and hosts of podcasts out on the internet now. But he wrote in one of his books, Vacation Land, that I'm going to quote here. Nostalgia is a toxic impulse. It is the twinned yearning delusion that A, the past was better, it wasn't, and B, it can be recaptured, it can't. And I used to subscribe pretty heavily to this, the idea that nostalgia is a toxic impulse, because I do think that we have this way of just misremembering past experiences where we selectively remember the good parts and don't forget that there was some whack stuff that happened. And it's like, boy, the 80s were fun. It's like, okay, think about it, right? Like, boy, things were better when, things were better when you could get lost for hours on end without access to maps. Okay, yeah, it was maybe it is bad to like roll around with a little computer in your phone, but a little computer in your pocket, but at all times. But yeah, there's some like conveniences that the modern world has given us. But I will say this: I have changed my tune on this, and I think really in our current times, like up to the second current times, boy, is nostalgia a necessary impulse, even if it is a little bit toxic, because times can be tough out here. I don't know if y'all follow the news, but in light of that, in light of one of our great public thinkers, John Hodgman, I think what the Blazers are doing appeals to a certain part of me that says, like, yeah, getting back and leaning into nostalgia, leaning into the reunions, appreciating past iterations of a thing you love to allow you to appreciate the future thing you love is not only like okay, it's like maybe even the right thing to do. And I was thinking about this in a couple ways. It's like, I know Brandon Roy has kind of like come back, but hasn't really had the like, I'm back, I'm here, I want to be here type of moment, but he has come back to the arena. He's made his reunion. And it took a while. It took a while for him to get to that place. And even then he hasn't done it in a really like super public open way. But he's been there and waved, and those are special moments. And I don't know that he owes the public more than that necessarily. But I was thinking about that, like how long it took Brandon Roy, who was so instrumental in, and like I owe Brandon Roy a lot personally. He made me fall in love with the league in a way that I just like. I was a sports and basketball fan, but when I moved here the same fall that Brandon did in 2006, and he was the best rookie it was rookie of the year. It's the best rookie in the league. Would have been a unanimous rookie of the year. Shout out to Andre Bargnani. But he was so special and so good that I truly fell in love with the NBA, and he kind of pushed me on the path that maybe that's why I talk into this microphone right now. Certainly without him, it seems like unlikely that I would be talking to this microphone the way that I am, because he kindled, not rekindled, but kindled an appreciation for the sport that I just did not have. I always loved basketball, but I didn't love professional basketball at this level. Brandon Roy is important to my journey as like an adult human. And I was thinking about like how long after he left and like what he meant. And I didn't really, because of when I moved here, I didn't really appreciate the like couple prior seasons of like, being really in the darkness, right? Like Richie Fromm or whatever. And Sebastian Telfair and like kind of just like really wandering in the desert. But I did appreciate what Brandon Roy did to pull them out of the desert and lead them into being, competitive again in that era. And then I was thinking about him, and I was thinking about how LaMarcus Aldridge has not, I don't think he has necessarily beef with the team. He did say something where it was like Neil Olshey blocked him from resigning from the team. I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second. I do not believe that story. I think that is embellished at best. But like how sort of like the recent Blazers who have left don't seem to have that close connection with the team. And I was thinking about like who I would really want to come back. But part of me is like, I am a bit of a skeptic out here. And so I don't think that good basketball player means good basketball teacher. I actually think that typically guys who are particularly high level players don't make the best teachers, because it's like, well, you just do it, or that they're so deeply committed to the grind that they don't understand players that don't work in the sort of maniacal way that true superstars often work. And so it's like, you don't always get the, they don't always make the best. They don't always make the type of that high quality players don't always make the best type of coaches, the best type of teachers. So it's not like I'm like, bring back Brandon Roy, put him on the coaching staff. I don't even think that's not what I would lean towards. LaMarcus Aldridge, like I think it would be nice if he had a moment at midcourt to wave and say, hey, thanks. Mike thinks I belong on Mount Rushmore maybe, but he can't. He's probably leaning Terry Porter, but he thinks I deserve some strong consideration, and I'm one of the 5 greatest Blazers of all time. And I do actually think that about LaMarcus Aldridge. And I hope that he does have a moment where he comes back and gets to connect with the fan base. He doesn't need to be in part of the team, right? And B-Roy doesn't need to be hired by the team, right? But it would be nice if all of the players that left and were meaningful for long stretches of time, or even, short 5-year windows like B-Roy, like would feel like they are welcomed and should and want to be part of this community and this franchise and all of those things, right? Like I think that's that is the sort of my turn on my about face on nostalgia. Like I think that would be good. I think if we could remember those times, it would be good. I'm like, you know what? 2007 was tight. The 08-09 season was pretty cool. I remember it. It was great. And it got me thinking about 2 things: an old email and a chance meeting at a bar in Southeast Portland. I walked into a bar called the Firkin in Southeast Portland once. My wife and I were going out to dinner. Our table wasn't ready or whatever. Maybe we walked in and I don't know what the deal was, but we had 45 minutes or something to kill. We walked into the Firkin to get a drink. Maybe even like a shot and a beer. We were going nuts, baby. And I met a listener Todd, who happened to be clandestine meeting with listener Todd, who was my bartender that evening at the Firkin. We drink a beer, we take a shot, we're having a grand old time. And Todd says, I know who you are. Like I watch the show, and I like when I meet folks out in the world who watch a show. It feels good to be appreciated. So I'm like, yes, Todd, what's up? We chat a little bit. We talk Blazers. And Todd sends me an email a few weeks later, maybe a week later. It says like, the Blazers should hire Andre Miller. I'm like, oh, cool. I like Andre Miller. And what Todd taught me in that moment was that Andre Miller has been coaching in the freaking G League for, at that time, 2 years. He coached 3 years as the head coach of the Grand Rapids Gold in the G League for the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets then like completely retooled their G League staff this year, and Dre is out. But I was reminded of that because, one, it's a fun chance meeting with Todd on a very dark, very rainy night in Southeast Portland, maybe 15, 18 months ago. And then Andre Miller was on All the Smoke with Steven Jackson, Matt Barnes, and he was just like regaling us, the general public, with incredible stories of one time he went to the chocolate convention at the Expo Center, and then he had to leave the game the next day. He got chocolate poisoning, had to leave the game the next day with like a stomach ailment, and like had to actually go to the hospital because he basically he overdosed on chocolate. He told another story about like how basically they just didn't like Blake Griffin, and when he ended his Ironman streak. He hadn't missed a game in over 4 seasons or something like that, 6 seasons. He had the longest active streak of playing without missing a game. And Blake Griffin made him so mad that he ran down the court and hip checked him out of bounds, got ejected, and missed the next game. Like he ruined his Ironman streak just because he and his Blazer teammates did not care for Blake Griffin's antics. They said, we got it. We're getting this dude. I've had enough. It's just incredible, Andre Miller stories. And that's where I land here on this show. Bring back Dre Day. Let's go. Bring back Andre Miller, one of my all-time faves, one of my all-time favorite NBA players, one of my all-time favorite Blazers. If I had to pick like who is their next reunion, 150,000,000% Andre Miller for a couple reasons. One, he isn't one of those guys who was like so physically gifted that he's like, here's how you do it. He also isn't one of those players who was a star. He was good, right, for a long time. But I feel like he fits the mold of like good long career type of player that makes good, like typically leads to good teachers in the league. He's had real head coaching experience in the G League, so he could like actually be involved because he's done some actual coaching at the professional level. And he rocks. and put all of those things put together. I would love to see reunions with Rasheed Wallace. I'd love to see Brandon Roy back in the building. Love to see LaMarcus back in the building. Unfortunately, the Blazers have had some other players, some sort like other, beloved players of the last 30 or 40 years pass away young. Jerome Kersey and Kevin Duckworth and Uncle Cliff Robinson. So it's like there are some players who I think would maybe have been back in the fold in different ways. Certainly Jerome Kersey would certainly be involved in the team because he was prior to his passing. But it is all the more reason to, if you are able to make these reunions and able to make these, like form these bonds with players that were meaningful to the fan base and meaningful to the franchise, do it before it's too late. I feel like it took a long time for Bill Walton when he left to sort of mend the fences, right? Like he did not care for the Blazers for a long time, and he did it, and he ended up, talking about his regret that it took him so long to sort of feel like he wanted to be back in part of the franchise. And I think, while nostalgia, it might be indeed a toxic impulse, it is an impulse that is worth leaning into, and I hope that the Blazers continue to do it. Hire Andre Miller. Get him in some sort of coaching capacity. He's done it. He's got the resume. Peep the resume. It's still Dre Day. That's going to do it for today's show. Come back for tomorrow's program. So what we do 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.